Hello again. Let's do some dream farming. Well now, it's funny, whenever I launch one of these, always, until the moment I start it, I don't know exactly what I'm going to say. And that's an important piece, actually. And I've talked a lot about, the fact that, I don't really plan out what I'm going to say, technically I'm thinking about these things all the time and pondering and contemplating, approaching them from my stillness. But when it comes down to this moment of creation with you, I emphasize the spontaneity of it. Sometimes I take some notes, and I've got a couple of keywords to make sure I don't miss things. But for the most part, I'm really trying to just riff with you in a spontaneous active flow state, because there's something very special in that that's essential for dream farming. Essential. And what it is something that Carlos Castaneda calls, well, in the voice of Don Juan, he calls not doing. So, what's a not doing, you may ask? It's hard to describe. It's essentially something when your mind is turned off. It's something when you're asleep, even though you're awake. It's like a trance, almost. Or it's an absence of regular pattern, or pattern, shall we say. I think that if you become a devotee of yoga, say, all those meditations and mantras and kirtan practices and whatnot, all of those are ritual processes attained to get you into a not doing state. It stops you from doing all the things you ordinarily know what to do. It's subtle, and it's real, because like take music. Music is one of my things. And so when I start to play music, or let me say when I approach music, right up until the moment I'm playing music, it's like I'm in another state, kind of analytical, kind of involved in the affairs of daily life, sort of like my thinking is on a low boil, a simmer, you might say. But then the moment I start playing music, something happens to me. I hear the notes, the tone affects me, stops that process. And then for a while, this is sort of like intermediary phase where I'm kind of like half in and half out, And so sometimes it clicks in right away. Other times it takes a little bit. But essentially, when I'm in it, all of music for me, when I'm in the zone, is a not doing. And there is a lot of spontaneity to it. It's mostly spontaneous, As I've said to you, for me, the patterns and the motifs are similar sometimes, but what is new always is the discovery of them. The tone, the flow, the mood, and also being a singer, the beautiful poetry, you know what I mean? To vocalize. It's like to sing is the not doing of speech, if you will. And what I mean by that is I sing in metaphor. I'm dealing with the same feelings. So if I'm having a bad day, I'm bringing a dark feeling. If I'm having a good day, I'm bringing a light feeling. But whatever it is, rather than the analysis and the constant mulling over of the activities and experiences and whatnot that I may be going through, the not doing of it in music is to transform it, transmute it, because it's the same thing. Transmute it from like an analytical substance into beauty, into an actual form. And that is not doing. Suddenly you take all the mundaneness and ordinariness and it becomes magic. It becomes sacred. And there's a ritual in that too, for me to begin singing in metaphor. There is a kind of ritual focus, which is an abandonment. I abandon myself to it, and that's another Castaneda principle. It's called the mood of a warrior. And you have to abandon yourself to what you're doing. Abandon yourself to it. You think, you plan, you go through all these things. When it's time to get into it, no doubt, you just go in that direction with everything that you've got. And the mood of the warrior is to be totally abandoned and yet totally in control. And so in music, that's a practice for me, because I'm at the limits of my skill. I'm at the only time that ecstasy comes to me is when I'm pushing myself in the mood of a warrior with complete abandon, at the maximum of my skill range, and also with that not doing element where I'm not thinking or worrying. Mind has been left behind, or maybe it's been put into its right place as passenger, and then, my word making apparatus is in the service of life energy force, So in that moment, I am living the dream in that moment. And so when I say to you, let's do some dream farming, what I'm getting at is that it requires a different state of being, which is called flow state. It gets talked a lot about, I hear these days, and I'm just telling you my way to it. And it's got this sort of Carlos Castaneda flavor, because it's about not doing what you know how to do. Even if you know how to do it, the approach is different. Mood is there. Tone is there. Sometimes when I sing, I call it the sacred gravity. There's a sacred gravity which happens in ritual and in that abandonment. When you give yourself to the moment, you're giving yourself to the world. You're giving yourself to nature. You're giving yourself to the spirit. And then you're just in a flow state where who knows what's going to happen. And the only thing for sure is that you're in control of your own process and your own choices and your decision to be in that state. After that, it is what it is. So, flow state is the essence of dream farming. And what I'm trying to say to you is not doing is the principal quality. That's the texture of it. That's what it feels like. It feels different. I always use the analogy of looking at the world or gazing at the world. You know what I mean? Looking at the world is to look at it in an analytical kind of way. It's a very logical sequence. It's rational. To gaze at the world is to apprehend its beautiful other face, its infinite dimension of possibility, what it is in all the totality that you can perceive but not rationalize, gets you outside of that process into some other thing, which is flow state. Flow state is that loving energy being place, and that is the essence of dream farming. And so when I come here, I'm talking about the dream farming now, really I am invoking everything I've done up to this point, which is to say healing journey, which is to say you begin learning that you don't know anything and you can never know anything, and yet you still can accumulate knowledge, even though you can never know it. You can never know infinity, but you can strive to know as much as you can. And even though it means nothing, it means something in the process of it, in the devotion of it, in the genuine, authentic, healing, learning, generative giving of yourself in order to be one with it. That's where learning is. You be one with something, And it starts inside. You can't be one with the world until you begin with yourself. You begin within, and that's that loving piece. If you're not in a state of loving, where are you? What are you doing? If I speak about work in the field, with people who suffer with the mental health issues or addictions issues, you find that they don't even know where they are. Oftentimes you're with people who are a million miles away, you know what I mean? And I say that just in terms of pathology to illustrate a point, because really when you go down the street and you're interacting with people, how many people are in the moment that you meet? Are you in the moment? Are you in the moment right now? I'm in the moment because I'm just making this up as I go along and I don't really know what I'm doing. And so I'm super sharp. I'm with you right now. I'm with you right now completely. Or rather, I'm generating with everything that I've got, making this gesture to people who I might never know, people out there. And so it's like I'm making this gesture because I think these things are important to know inside. And so when I talk about people in the field, think about the field as the world that we live in, our social spaces. Who's turned on? Who's really present? Who's creatively engaging with their moment? Who are the people who seem a million miles away? If you're a million miles away from your life, where are you? What are you really paying attention to? That's interesting to me. That is the essence of this world that we live in. What are we emphasizing? What are we paying attention to? What is society urging us to pay attention to? For me, when you get into a deep, silent place inside, which all of the mystic traditions are leading you to, all of them are leading you to that place inside, and all of them are valid. You know what I mean? Just get to the place inside, and from there, the first step towards dream farming, towards cultivating your own dreaming, is not doing. So think about that, as you're carrying on in the things that you're doing, right? How do you bring that freshness? How do you bring that aliveness to something? What is aliveness? There is a certain spontaneity to it. If you think it's just history repeating itself, look again. Because if it is just the same thing over and over again, things get boring. Things get stale, and you become restless in them. That's where the pressure begins inside. I know pressure well. Whereas not doing is relief. Not doing is a piece of bliss. It's a piece of joy. Flow state is being there. Think about when you're with someone you love. I mean, really love, where you're just at ease. Isn't that bliss? It's bliss being there, Or your free time, where you don't have to do anything. When you don't have to do anything, you feel good. If only you could bring that feeling, that state, into all the things that you have to be doing. Not only is it fresher and more alive, but you've got more that you're giving into. You've got more that you're giving to it. See, it's hard to talk about not doing. Not doing. This is the essence of not doing what I'm giving to you right now, because I'm not sure always what I'm doing here. Not always sure what I'm doing here. I know what my intent is. My intent is loving, healing, evolving, dreaming. My intent is put something in the world, vibrate in the world in a way to change it for the better. Because I have not done enough of that in my life. And so this is my chance, and this is what I'm going to do with it, is try to vibrate and share what makes most sense to me, what is my higher ground, what makes me feel joy. And it's not doing. I don't know what else to say. So maybe that's as far as I'm going to say it today. To be cultivating dreams is to be not doing. It's to be not doing. And I hope that eventually you're going to join me in this, and that we can have a dialogue. Because in that dialogue, a dialogue of not doing is a dialogue of discovery and learning. Could be healing, could be just loving, could be evolving if we talk about our society and the world of life and light around us. Could be dreaming if we just launch into the dark sea of awareness, as Don Juan put it. But whatever it might be, not doing. That's the first step. It's a short one today, and that's okay. So ponder these things, and then I hope someday I'll hear from you. Until then, be well.